Are you serious? Are you serious? Thank you for being a member of Patreon. And I tell you, this series on this manuscript from 1950 is just incredible. Okay, Immanuel Velikovsky did a tremendous job in gathering this information. Although this manuscript was banned in the late 1950s, we want to be so thankful that there was a lady in Wisconsin who preserved a copy and handed on down to her daughter, who is an attorney in Wisconsin, made a copy of it and sent it to me. Thank God, because it gives us documented information about what happened when the last time Nibiru went by the earth during the plagues of Egypt. Now, we talked about the red dust. We talked about the hailstones in the last video. Now we got to talk about naphtha. Excuse me if it's hard to say. Naphtha. What is naphtha? Well, it's a crude petroleum. It's composed of two elements, carbon and hydrogen. The main theories of the origin of the petroleum is this. There's an inorganic theory, which is made of hydrogen and carbon, were brought together in the rock formations of the earth under great heat and pressure. The other theory is an organic theory. Both, again, needs hydrogen and carbon, which composed the petroleum, came from the remains of a plant and animal life, in the main from microscopic marine and swamp life, all right? But the organic theory implies that the process started after life was already abundant, at least at the bottom of the ocean. So the tales of a comet or Nibiru or a burning star, we would call it wormwood in Revelation. The tales of a comet were composed mainly of carbon and hydrogen gases, lacking oxygen. They do not burn in flight, but the inflammable gases passing through the atmosphere containing oxygen will be set on fire. If carbon and hydrogen gases or vapor of composition of these two elements enter the atmosphere in huge masses, a part of them will burn, binding all the hydrogen available at the moment. Okay? It will rest, the rest will escape combustion, but in swift transition will become liquid. Falling on the ground, the substance liquid would sink into the pores of the sand, into the clefts of the rock, or falling on the water, it would remain floating if the fire in the air is extinguished before new supplies of oxygen arrive from other regions. So it becomes as it's coming down, it's a sticky fluid which came earthward and blazed with heavy smoke, is recalled in oral and written traditions of inhabitants of both hemispheres during the same time of the Exodus in Egypt. Documents a sacred book called the POPOL-VUH. If you want me to, let me just, I should have had this pulled up already, but I'll do it right now. Give me 1 second. I'll give you the right pronunciation of this, because this is so critical. I apologize. 1 second. I should have had that. This is okay.
Popol Vuh.
Popol Vuh.
Popol Vuh.
Popol Vuh. That is a sacred book of the Mayans, and they wrote this. It was ruin and destruction. The sea was piled up. It was great indentation. People were drowned in a sticky substance, raining from the sky. The face of the earth grew dark, and gloomy rain endured days and nights. And then there was a great den of fire above their heads. The entire population of the land was annihilated. That was written in Popol Vuh, or the sacred book of the Mayan Indians in Mexico. Also, another manuscript perpetrated the picture of the population of Mexico perishing in a downpour of bitumen there descended from the sky a rain of bitumen and of a sticky substance. The earth was obscured, and it rained day and night. And men ran hither and thither, and were as if seized by madness. They tried to climb to the roofs, and the houses crashed down. They tried to climb the trees, and the trees cast them far away. They tried to escape in the caves and the caverns, but they were suddenly closed. And then in a similar account, which was preserved in the documents of the Kushu Tillion, and I'm gonna do that one too, just because I don't want to mispronounce it horribly. Here's what it was found in. Another ancient document talks about the same event during the same time period as the escape of Egypt, okay? Let's get this one spelled right. Cuauh. Sorry, I know this is not how you should do stuff, but, I don't always do stuff the same way as everybody else. Here's how you pronounce this manuscript.
Annals of Kiraudialon. Annals of Kiraudialon.
The Annals of
Annals of Kiraudialon.
Kiraudialon. All right. Another ancient document, the age which ended in the reign of fire, they said, and which means the son of fire reign. All right. Now, far away in the other hemisphere, over in Siberia, the Vogels carried down through the centuries and over 1,000-year period in the millennium, this memory, quote, God sent a sea of fire upon the earth. The cause of the fire they called the fire water. Half a meridian to the south, the East Indies, the Aboriginal tribes related that in the remote jungles there was water of fire rained from the sky, which with very few exceptions all men died. The eighth plague, as described in the book of Exodus, was meteorites, fire mingled with barid, very grievous. Such there was none like it in all the land of Egypt, since it became a nation. You can find this in Exodus 9:24. So I went to the Bible to read what the King James Version said about this account of the eighth plague in the days of the plague of Egypt. If you go to Exodus chapter 9, verse 23, it says this, And Moses stretched forth his rod toward heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and the fire ran along upon the ground. So it was a liquid. And the Lord rained hail upon the land of Egypt. So there was hail and fire mingled with hail, very grievous, such as there was none like it in all the land of Egypt, since it became a nation. And the hail smote throughout all the land of Egypt, all that was in the field, both man and beast, and the hail smote every herb of the field, and brake every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel were, there were no hail. The plague did not come there. So, what caused it? It was a meteorite. As it came down, it would burn because it caught on fire on the way in. Then as it hit the ground, it would liquefy. It was also mixed with hailstones. It broke the trees. It destroyed the herbs in the field. It killed men. It annihilated them. And we find this not only in Exodus chapter 9, but we find out that it happened to the Mayan Indians in Mexico, to the Aborigines in the West Indies, to the natives in Siberia. And we see there's documented accounts of it and oral accounts of it by tradition. Matter of fact, another ancient book described this consuming fire as gates, columns, and walls are consumed by fire. It said the sky is in confusion. Papyrus says that there's fire almost exterminated mankind. The Midrashim in a number of texts state that the naphtha, together with hot stones, poured down upon Egypt. The Egyptians refused to let the Israelites go, and he poured out the naphtha over them, burning glands or blisters upon their skin. It was a stream of hot naphtha. Naphtha is a petroleum, and that's what they call it in Aramaic and Hebrew, is naphtha. The population of Egypt was pursued with strange rains, hails, and showers, and utterly consumed with fire. For what was most marvelous of all, in the water which quenches all things, the fire wrought yet more mightily, which is the nature of burning petroleum. In the register of the plagues in Psalms 105, David wrote, it is referred to as a flaming fire. And in Daniel chapter 7, verse 10, he says a river of fire or a fiery stream. So in the Passover, in Haggadah, it is said that the mighty men of Pul and Lud, or Lydia and Asia Minor, that's where that would be located, were destroyed with consuming conflagration on the Passover. And the valley of Euphrates, the Babylonians often referred to this time as the rain of fire, vivid in their memory. All these countries, both hemispheres, and traditions and documented texts refer to the fire rain, sticky substance, mingled with hail, that annihilated men upon the earth, but not the children of Israel that were living in Goshen under the as slaves to Pharaoh. Pharaoh thought he was the sun god. Can you imagine, as these plagues came upon the earth, how Pharaoh must have felt hopeless and defeated? Folks, all of this is documented here because it's believed that, as it's recorded, that a burning star, a Nibiru, they call it Nibiru, okay, or Planet X. We hear Planet X, Nibiru, we hear Planet number 9, we hear the word dwarf star, we hear the word wormwood, because that's Revelation chapter 8, and the water's going to turn red like blood. Everything in the creatures in the sea are going to die. A third of the creatures are going to die. A third of the trees and the grass are going to be burned up, just like this says. Okay? Peter says that the earth is going to melt with a fervent heat. This is 2 Peter chapter 3. Even the air is going to be combustible. Okay? So what's happening is this. It happened once before during the plagues of Egypt, but it wasn't just in Egypt. This was a global phenomenon that annihilated a lot of different people. The Aboriginal tribes in the West Indies saw it. The Mayans were just about wiped out by it. The tribes and the tribal people of Siberia, those that were living in Lydia and Asia Minor, experienced it. The Egyptians experienced it. The Jews, the Hebrews, the children of Israel, they saw what happened. And so it's documented everywhere. What I'm saying is it's coming again according to the experts. Mike from around the world, which will be our guest on Thursday night, November the 8th. You don't want to miss that broadcast. Mike has been telling us that this binary system, call it what you want, and Planet X, Nibiru, Planet number 9, the Goblin, the Dwarf Star, it doesn't matter to me. But this entity is coming again, and it will bring great catastrophe upon the planet. That shouldn't shock you, because that's exactly what the Bible says is coming in Revelation and also in the 2 Peter chapter 3. Even Jesus said, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word abideth forever. Now, you're not going to have to face it if you're a Christian. But if you're not, well, that's another situation. Give your life to Jesus Christ. And thank you, please thank you for supporting me here on Patreon.